Good afternoon. I am TCA's Associate Director of Education, Kim Grimmick, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. On behalf of TCA's Chairman, Dennis Dellinger, President and CEO of Cargo Transporters, and TCA's entire leadership team, I want to thank you for joining us today. I would also like to express our sincere appreciation to Blume Global for their generosity in sponsoring today's webinar. A few reminders before we get started. Should you become disconnected from this webinar, you may rejoin by clicking the link provided in your registration and reminder emails. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available to be viewed at TCA's Online Learning Center, which can be accessed by visiting truckload.org. Questions can be submitted using the Q&A icon or chat icon found at the bottom of your screen. We will acknowledge your question once it has been received. I'd also like to take this time to remind you that today's presentation is designed for educational purposes only, and that the opinions and views expressed herein are not necessarily those of TCA and belong solely to the individual contributors. No rights convey. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn the session over to Glenn Jones, Vice President of Product Strategy and Marketing, to kick off the conversation. Glenn, take it away.
Thanks, Kim. Thank you very much. And yes, my name is Glenn Jones, and I am with Blume Global, running product strategy and marketing. I live in Pleasanton, and it's the kind of nice weather here, but I understand a lot of you out there are experiencing some of the downside of the rest of the U.S. Anyways, joining me today is Brandi Craig, Manager of Security at Pier Transportation. And Brandi, would you like to just spend a second and introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everybody. I'm Brandi Craig. I work with Pier Transportation. I've been here for 16 years. And I do love my job. The weather has been pretty nice here these past few days because we've been in the upper 40s. And last week we got 20 inches of snow. So it's beautiful out and the sun's shining.
Cool. Well, thanks. Yes. And today we want to talk about safety and kind of what's happened over the last year and 2 or 3 months. When I know everybody's experienced COVID, and we've sort of broken COVID down into 4 different phases. 3 of them we've experienced, and the 4th one, we're just starting to experience. The first phase of COVID back in March, I know I was sitting at a big conference called TPM. It was on Saturday evening, and this is an enormous conference in Long Beach, and they said we're going to cancel the conference tomorrow, which is pretty incredible. And I'm sure maybe everybody can remember kind of what was happening at that time, but we call that kind of the panic phase. And so that's when it came in. People were understanding about COVID-19. They had different names for it, and so people were trying to figure out what to do. This lasted maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and just want to Brandi, kind of what was happening in your world at that time?
In our world, when we first learned about it, we had a lot of questions and wondering what ifs. And when Illinois went on shutdown, and we had to adapt to that, work remotely from home. We did a lot of shift changes for the dispatchers so that only one was in the office at one time. Nobody was near each other. The drivers had to adapt also, making sure that they stop at the same stops, don't go inside, pay at the pump. It was hard for them because they're used to, doing what they want to do and changing their actions. And, everybody had to deal with it and not seeing family members like you normally do. It was tough. It was tough in that first phase.
Yeah, a lot of our experience was very similar. I mean, we understood the manufacturing facility closing down. We do a lot of work with importers, large ocean freight forwarders, the largest ocean carriers, And they were trying to figure out, exactly what was the impact going to be. I think, China was a few weeks ahead of us, of course. And so we seeing those signs that, that the cargo, the inbound shipments were starting to dry up a little bit. And same thing with, I think the other big thing that came to us very quickly was, how can we better support the truck drivers and the trucking community, because nobody was sure. I mean, they were saying, I can't touch anything because COVID sits on a piece of glass for, a week or two. And so that was the level of the panic at that time, if you remember. And those were the first signs, and nobody really knew. And so I think, very quickly came the phase two, and sort of the phase two, as we call it, the shutdown phase. That's where the factories were shut down. We were shutting down. We went into a shelter in place. And so shelter in place was spreading across different states, were given the opportunity to make up their own rules and come up with ways to try to protect their people. And so, during that shutdown phase, I mean, there were, the world, there was blank sailings, the vessels were trying to figure out, or the ocean carriers were trying to figure out how they could get cargo across. The other big thing is, of course, the air and the air cargo, all the passenger flights were grounded. And so now it caused because a lot of that, the cargo was carried in the belly. So 42% of our statistics were around 42% of the air cargo was only 42% available. So kind of what was your experience during that? That shutdown probably lasted through June, July type time frame.
It did.
Yeah.
A lot of the places that we deliver to, one of our biggest customers, they did a complete shutdown. But we were still pulling out their freight for them and still taking it down to their yard, dropping it, and coming back. We did a lot of pre-pulling also, pulling everything out of the yards and keeping it at, the pull-out yard. It was tough because you're trying to keep up with the demand, but when you're taking it down there, there's nobody there to unload it either. So then once that third phase came out and everybody's starting to come out of lockdown and want, a little bit here by there, there'd be a couple, trailers getting unloaded, but not a lot. And now we're starting to see, I hate to say it, in the phase 4 section, we're starting to see chassis shortages. And because that freight's still trying to come back slowly but surely, it's been rough.
Yeah. What during that shutdown phase, you were still delivering cargo, right? You still had drivers out there.
Yes.
What kind of responses were they? Were they concerned? What was their experience at that time? And I know the kind of feedback we were getting is there ways that we don't have to touch anything? But
right, there was a lot of that. We were lucky because a lot of the customers, A, weren't there, or B, hey, take your delivery order and just stick it into the mailbox. So we had a lot of that, nobody touching doors, nobody touching, just throw your stuff into the mailbox and we know it's delivered and, on your way you go.
Yeah, so one of the big things that a lot of our customers, and they were starting to have problems finding trucking capacity. Sometimes it was because drivers just didn't want to drive. They didn't want to take the risk. And, one of the big requests that we had coming in is, what can we do to help the drivers not have to other than they have to, of course, have a delivery. They were wearing masks at that time. So I think, the masks were still starting to come in. But is there a way that we can, instead of having to physically sign a bill of lading, is there a way that we can, not have to do that? And so, we were trying to figure out how can we help them. And, we do have a driver mobile app that we use. And so we started enhancing that to do like a picture other signed bill of lading, so they didn't have to touch it. So, or as they transition that bill of lading, and the dock workers seemed to be the same way. They were extremely concerned about, interacting with anybody, but they had to be there, and they had to be, because, the PPE, the paper products, the key products had to go through. And so we were trying to quickly come up with ways to help them to, not have to, do minimal touch. Can you share with us, Brandi, at that point in time, what kind of cargo were you shipping? Were you shipping like paper products or PPE or all the above, or because of the things that really drove, do you remember?
Well, technically, we don't deliver that types of products, but we deliver something that warehouses really, really do need, and it's the parts for the forklifts. And without those forklifts, we can't get that product onto the truck. So it was important. That's our main customer. We do a lot of freight for them. But yeah, you need that cargo.
Yeah, so I'm going to watch the chat channel over here. So we can certainly answer a lot of questions in the end, but I kind of want to make this a little bit interactive. So we have a kind of a one question that came in, and it says, when you decide to digitize, what is the first thing you did to start? And I think that's a question for right now. I mean, maybe you're
we were very lucky because we've been a part of Blume for quite some time, because one of our shippers has been with you guys for a very long time. And, that was part of the first digitize. And with COVID happening, the boss is like, let's take this to another step further, because, what if this happens again? And it possibly could. We could have another COVID type virus come through. And so now we're going to take it a step further. And I like the fact that, like you said on your app, if you hand the paper to the customer, they can sign it. All the driver's got to do is take a picture, it's uploaded, and, everybody's happy. You see the copy of the POD, and no more paper exchange is happening. And that's what we really like.
Yeah, no, that's, I would say before COVID, a lot of our customers or the trucking companies out there, they wanted to get, the first thing they wanted to do was to be able to accept digital tenders. And that was an important thing, to be able to get, so the interaction with their customers, it gave them a better way to interact with their customers. But when COVID hit, it all went to the driver. And so it was all about, how can I make my driver safer, and it's, and still service my customer, and still provide back, the status of where the load is, so they could prepare at the DCs, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But it definitely changed for us. It definitely changed from tenders and being able to kind of interact back with the customers to driver safety. So let's jump into what we call what we're calling the third phase of COVID, and so that's kind of that late summer, early fall, when things were opening up. The restaurants, at least, and again, I live in Alameda County, California. It's near Oakland, and similar to New York. I mean, it was spreading very quickly across here. So I think, we were one of the first ones to, or we were one of the last ones to open restaurants and open outdoor dining. Of course, the weather's good here, so you can have outdoor dining even in the middle of winter, but the summertime. So this was kind of that phase where the everybody was staying home, but so they couldn't travel on vacation, and because they couldn't travel on vacation, they started using their vacation money for home improvements. So the furniture companies, and the companies, because none of the gyms were open, the companies that were building exercise equipment, ellipticals, the bicycles, and other treadmills, the demand was going through the roof. And I know, we had just built a house, and, we became really close to Wayfair buying stuff left and right, and same thing with Ashley and some of the other furniture makers. So this was kind of this phase where the demand was high, but the factories had just opened and in China, and they were working 24/7, but it was still trickling in. So what was your environment like during that time, Brandi? That was probably midsummer through maybe October, November type time frame.
Phase 3 here, like you said, the restaurants started opening. A lot of outdoor eating. I don't think we had indoor eating yet. We kind of just started that more so the past couple of months, because our numbers went up again, and here in Illinois they shut it down again. So I mean, it's been going back and forth with that. But the demand in the freight hasn't changed. Like you said, everything started trickling back in. And like I said, now we're getting the freight in, but now we're seeing that shortage of the chassis. And it's hard because either stuff is still sitting at the customer because they're still trying to unload everything and we can't get it back with that chassis. So it's tough. We're seeing that shortage. And now we're even dealing with another problem with the weather. And now they're not accepting certain freight back in or empties back into the rail yards. It's been a tough year.
Yes, it has. Yes. So kind of where were your drivers' heads during this time? I mean, were they getting more, so people are understanding more about COVID during the summertime, early fall. They they know that, maybe it doesn't sit on a piece of glass for 2 days, but it still can get spread pretty easily. Masks are now the right kind of, everybody felt like masks help. But during that summertime, what were your drivers? Were they kind of going back to a normal routine, or were they still highly cautious?
They were still cautious. They were
cautious,
cautious, and they're still cautious to this day. They wear their masks. I know a lot of them were very wary about even traveling because a lot of my drivers are Hispanic, and a lot of them wanted to go and see their families. And the one driver, I think he waited until January to try to go back, and he only went for a couple of weeks because Mexico started to, it started to spike there too. So he was very concerned about traveling as far as that goes. But yes, they are all still very cautious about everything that they do.
Yeah, and are there things that you had to change during that time from policy perspective? From were you
not so much policy changing, but adding to the policy? Make sure they keep their social distancing. Make sure they're not touching somebody else's pens and equipment. Like I said, trying to pay at the pump and not walk into the fuel stop.
Yeah. How about
honestly,
training?
I want to try to still keep that going because you just never know.
That's so true. That's so true. Were you having to do any training, or were they finding out this stuff on their own? We
didn't do any training. We pretty much did everything verbally through phone. Mm-hmm. And then, when we had to deliver trucks, we supplied them with masks, and whenever they're running low, they just give me a call and say, hey, I'm running low, and we send it to them. So, I mean, it's been everything. They don't hardly ever come into the office anymore either. It's kind of sad, but yeah. We miss faces, but we all have to protect one another.
Yep. Well, I know one of the things a few of our other customers did during this time, and other carriers we were talking to, everybody kind of became more familiar with Zoom. And so, Zoom stock went to the roof, and some of the other ones, and people got used to looking at Zoom on their cell phones. And so, we do have other customers that would, do just short bits of training, like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or, kind of what's the latest thing? If they were introducing a new policy or changing a policy, I mean, they they would coordinate a time, and the drivers would in theory stop, and then they would have like a 5-minute session update. So they were just trying to keep communicating with the drivers to keep them engaged and make them feel more comfortable. I mean, that seemed to be and were you having any driver capacity issues during this time? Were there challenges in that respect?
Our biggest challenge is when we did our first shutdown, and not having all the deliveries, and just doing all the big pre-pulling. We lost a lot of drivers. We lost like about 10, and trying to get that back up, it's been hard. There's a driver shortage right now. I think a lot of them might be too scared to get out there on the road because they don't know, like you said, if you touch this, you can get it. But now that we're starting to figure out a little bit more about the virus, I don't want to say we've built back up, but we're halfway there.
Okay. Yeah. I think, that seems like it's getting there. The drivers, I don't know if the word comfortables, but at least they're more aware, and awareness a lot of times is, and we'll talk more about vaccines in a few minutes and get into that whole topic of, where does a driver fit in this, pecking order of vaccines? But so let's get into the kind of what we call the third gate, and that's, we talked a little bit about it, but let's kind of dive into it. Is manufacturing in China? Well, I say China, Southeast Asia. I mean, so a lot of companies moved or had manufacturing in Thailand, and especially, when they had to kind of adopt factories to get more PPE produced. I know Vietnam, a lot of our customers started doing more and more pickups in Vietnam, and kind of across the board. So this is the phase where the floodgates are open. And so, the huge backlog of orders, exercise equipment and furniture and still PPE and the other things they're manufactured over there. And the ocean vessels now are bursting, and they're putting as many containers as they can. The Trans-Pacific is, there's very few blank sailings today, and so. That's where we have been and are still today. I think. I don't think I don't think there's enough vaccine out there yet. We'll talk about the future in a minute. But so in today, where are your drivers in your whole business experience, and kind of elaborate on that for a second, Brandi.
We're a bit overloaded.
Times are good.
I mean, it is. It's a good thing. And, we've been having to branch out a little bit and ask, other trucking companies to help. And then we also get the phone call from them. Hey, you got a couple extra drivers to send our way if we happen to be a little bit slow that week. But most of the times we're asking them to help us. So it's been tough. I think if we didn't lose that many drivers during that shutdown, I think we'd be okay, and we might only ask for a couple of drivers. So like I said, it's been tough. It's been tough because of the shortage and being overwhelmed with everything coming in.
So are you able to, are you having to, reject tenders? Are you, is it at that level, or are you able to scrape and be able to figure out how to?
We've had to reject a few, some customers that we just can't handle at the moment. Yep. And we hate doing that. We don't want to lose business.
Sure.
So unfortunately, that's where we're at right now.
Okay. And I know you have to be creative in these times, and exactly. But again, security is number one, and yep. That's got to be the top, I think, for everybody. And I think everybody, while we may not like that, we certainly have come to understand it. I'm looking through the questions here real quick. I think I'll hold off. Let's before I let's get into looking forward for a minute. And actually, let me elaborate a little bit on some of what our customers are seeing and sort of what we're doing to try to help them. so there's a huge backup at the Port of LALP. I do know, a few of our customers have started routing stuff through the Panama Canal and up into the East Coast. Some of the bigger, and their customers are kind of demanding that. I think last time I saw there was maybe a 4 or 5 day delay getting into any of the berths in the Port of LA. I mean, I think some of them have moved over to the express carriers, the ones that can guarantee, smaller loads, faster vessels. I think Matson's typically considered as one of those express carriers. I'm sure there's others out there, and so they're going into those services. But I think another thing that we're doing is we're working very closely with some of the ports because we move a lot of cargo in and out of the seaports. We manage the companies like yours are extremely important to the whole ecosystem and the environment, and so we work with you to get the cargo in and out of those seaports, both on the Atlantic side and the Pacific side. And so we're working closely with the terminals to try to get the terminals to be more efficient. And we've got some programs coming, and you'll see some announcements coming up in TPM, but being able to better and be more efficiently getting drivers in and out of there. So I know sometimes the wait times going into the marine terminals in Los Angeles and Long Beach are, they're ridiculous too. And so being able to better manage appointment windows. We're working with a new set of things called push appointments, where instead of requesting an appointment, you send a bunch of container IDs, and then the terminal will come back and say, here's the right window to pick up each one of these container IDs. And so it gives the trucking companies better insight into, hey, if I hit that window, I can get in and out of there much faster. And they can, and then, we are also offering for VIP services. So, in some instances, again, these aren't free services, but they're services that enable a freight forwarder or a BCO or even a carrier, a trucking company like yourself, where you can request and say, hey, I want this particular container, I want it on wheels. And so within a 6-hour window, the marine terminal will respond back and say, hey, here's your appointment. You can go to the bobtail gate, go get in faster, pick up the preloaded and get out of there quickly. And so, we're working on services like that can help better expedite, when necessary, but even not expedite, but just in general, make it more efficient getting in and out of those, the marine terminals. Anyway, so those are some of the things that we've kind of come up with, and I mean we've got I think 70% of our staff here at Blume are software developers and very creative people, and so they're trying to come up with ways to help everybody, make the ecosystem better and at least make things more fluid and not have as much dwell time in this particular case, because in the end, our customers are all the retailers and the shippers, and so trying to make sure they're providing the best level of service they can back to their customers. So, phase 4. Vaccines are out, they're starting to trickle out, but let's step forward. I don't know how far, I know I've already made my vacation reservations this summer for Glacier National Park. And we're
nice. That's on my bucket list.
And so I'm counting on this vaccine and the distribution and here in California to be able to, I know, some of our people that are in our family have already received the vaccines, those that are older than me, I'll put it that way. But so let's just say, we're midsummer and vaccines are, hopefully by August, because that's when I'm going to Rocky Mountain National Park. Not Rocky Mountain, Glacier National Park. So tell me about, what do you see there, and kind of what do you see happening, and what are your drivers thinking about that time frame? Are they, how are they feeling about that?
I'm not sure. We haven't really discussed if we want to make it mandatory, because we're still a little unsure about the vaccine. Have questions.
Are your drivers, or how are they, what are they talking about the vaccine? Are they, thinking it's a good thing and they're going to, and again, I'm being way too generic here. I mean, are
No,
you,
no, I mean, they're on
some of the
they're
drivers are,
50-50. They think it'd be a good thing, and then they're not real sure because they just don't know, what it entails. But personally, I'm the same way. I don't know much about it. I have tons of people that are in the healthcare industry, and my own cousin has, she's a nurse and she's gotten it, and she's recommended, do Pfizer. If you're going to get one, do Pfizer. I'm like, okay, okay. But like I said, we're 50-50, we're on the fence. But in reality, I think for the drivers, they should, to keep themselves safe and plus their family. Because let's say, they make a delivery and they catch it and they go home and now, everybody in their family has caught it. It's a scary situation, and you don't know whether or not if that person might be hospitalized or not. You just don't know. You don't know. Too many questions, too many what ifs.
so, this, as a safety manager, do you have an opinion on whether the drivers, this is a question that came in, do you have an opinion on whether the drivers should be moved up in the pecking order and be, kind of next in line behind those in here it's over 65 years old?
I really think that they should be in that line. I'm kind of shocked that they weren't next in
Yeah.
line after the doctors and
The
nurses.
healthcare, exactly, the first line.
Yes, because
And actually, you would consider that the drivers are first line, right? I mean, they're in the front,
yes,
they're
because
delivering,
and
they have to
honestly,
deliver.
they're the ones that kept this country going. We
Yep.
had made all the deliveries. Without them, we wouldn't have had, the food, toilet paper, all of that. A lot of people underestimate the transportation industry. They really
Yeah.
do. And even like you said, at the ports, everybody there, they need it too. There's too many people in this industry not to have it. And like I said, I really think they should have been next in line. That's my opinion.
There's, lobbyists I know that feel that way, and it's, so you just need to make our voices heard.
Definitely.
Let's see, I'm just glancing through the questions here. So, we are, kind of looking forward, and I know for a fact, as the vaccines are rolling out and people are getting immunized, we still we're going to keep our focus back probably on the driver for a while longer, and adding enhancements to our products to make sure that, and I'm hoping, our competitors are kind of doing the same thing out there on the market, that they're focused on driver safety, because I mean, this is one, we've already seen some strains come out that we're not sure if the vaccine's going to handle or not. So we have, I think the UK strain, they feel like it is. The South African strain, they're still not sure about. There's new ones kind of cropping up all the time. So we are, I know, for our company, we've kind of made commitments to, continue to improve the driver's experience, the driver safety on that side on multiple dimensions. And I think so our version of the new norm, that's one of the commitments that we've made, where we would probably focused our energy on more around optimization, I think, and optimizing the driver routes and making things more efficient. And like I said, certainly getting the efficiency and getting cargo out of both the rail ramps and the seaports. But we have put more energy down on driver safety, and that's kind of our takeaway from this, and one of the key decisions that we made. So I think that that's kind of those are the topics we wanted to talk about. So I'd like to kind of open up the forum for any questions. And I'm looking through chat, so you can use your chat, the Zoom chat over here. Let me see. Oh, I mean, so this is, I think we kind of answered this, but I can probably elaborate on a little bit more, but, how did you, how did, yeah, how did digitizing really help you in the pandemic? And so, yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about sign on glass, or not sign on glass, but pictures of, but what were some of the other things, Brandi, that, if you can think back on digitization, just re-elaborate on kind of the key things that helped you during the pandemic?
Well, we're still getting fresh on this. um, so we're still in a big learning process of the digitizing, with all of it. I don't have a whole lot of experience with it, unfortunately. But like from what I've seen video wise, it's going to help a lot. I think that communication wise, with everything being, into the system and sending it to the driver, they have everything just at a click of a button. And I really like that point of view. And with taking the picture for the POD, and it automatically uploads into the system. And not only, do I get to see it, but your customer has access to see that too, which is awesome. I really like that.
So let's go from the driver to the dispatchers and kind of how that works. I guess you had to start working remote, right? Or were y'all able to stay in the office during the earlier phases?
Mostly the dispatchers from the office. The rest of us were at home. We were working remotely. So lots of communication through the phone, the cell phone.
Okay.
Um,
Did y'all discover Zoom at that time, or did you discover these other video conferencing app? I use Zoom generically. It's unfortunate.
Actually, no.
No? Okay. I know we did. We, our office here is, it seats 120 people, and there's only I come in the office every day because it's close to home, but there's only 4 of us in here. And it's the CEO as chief of staff, myself, and our CIO, and then everybody else works remote. So we have become very close to Zoom, or we use another technology, I think Microsoft Teams, but it's become a daily way of life right now. And I think, for that kind of communication, you can see a whiteboard in behind me, and that's a reason because when you're doing the kind of things we do, whiteboards are important. And so we literally will position the camera like that and draw on the whiteboard and try to, communicate that way. But are there things y'all had to do as, you were working at home, you had dispatchers in the office, is there, and of course, phone communications are important. I find having this kind of an engagement where you can look at people face to face, at least it's helped us. And I don't know, if other companies have kind of, turned to do some of that, or if you're so used to talking on the phone, maybe that's more than
We are. We're very used to talking on the phone and texting. I mean, luckily, the ones that here in the office, we all have iPhones. So we all do the FaceTime. So, I mean, it was easy in that aspect, but when talking with the driver, it was always over the phone.
Yeah, that's, let's see. How much your driving force is adopting to digitization, and what are the challenges you face, especially with the older generation? So all your drivers have iPhones?
I have a few of the older generation. I mean, it's crazy because we've had to go digitization a while back when they enforced the ELD. And a lot of them grasped it pretty well, and then some of them didn't. And what's funny is, one of the drivers would bring in like their younger child, son or daughter, and try to explain it to them for them to explain it to dad. It was pretty funny. So, I mean, there's always a way where you try to work it out, regardless if it's with their son or daughter, to try to help them explain it. Because, sometimes they don't quite understand it with the language barrier. but we've always found a way to make it happen, and they've adapted pretty darn well, I must say. And I think, once we get a handle on Europe, it's going to be a piece of cake. And I told them, I'm like, this keeps you young.
Exactly. Do y'all keep any kind of, I don't know, I know we do what's called compliance tracking. So if you put out a policy, let's just say, and I know our customers are really driving this, they want a proof of delivery within 30 minutes, the time you drop off cargo. And so that obviously does not give a driver time to take a bill of lading back to the office and put it on a fax, or however you would normally do that. But that's happening with us, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. But do you have, and we track that compliance. I mean, it's hard to really tell when was a real drop off, but we do get information back on that, and we also get electronically when the driver sends back that signed proof, signed bill of lading, or
Right.
or a signature on
Right.
glass. So
We,
tell me about
with
that.
with our ELD app, it also has a scan feature, which is awesome too. But like I said, with yours, it'll be uploaded right in to the system so anybody can see it. Like when they send it right now through the ELD app, it just goes directly to us. So, if the customer wants it, then, it sends to us, and then we have to send it to them. And like you said, within 30 minutes, that's, you're asking for something tough sometimes, because it's, hey, we get tons of emails within 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's, we do track kind of compliance on that, and we report it back, and we also kind of take action, especially if it's a training thing. Like you said, some of the people don't feel good about the app, or is tracking me when I'm stopping at a restaurant or whatever, and so they don't feel good about having. And so I mean, we let in ours, we let them turn on and off the geo positioning. Obviously, when they're making a run, we prefer that it's on. Let's see, a couple of other, but we do, kind of have training, and then we provide that feedback back to our customers about, what is the compliance on at least pickup and delivery and e-proof of delivery. So let's see, have you seen or heard about investing in wearables that can monitor a driver's health, increase temperature, heart rate, feedback on other data about the driver? Well, that's a great.
I have not. That's something new for me.
Yeah.
No, I have not heard of that yet.
I do. So I've got a father-in-law. He's a avid bicyclist, and he's had some heart conditions. And so, I think he uses an app called Strata or something like that, that whenever he starts on his bike ride now, he turns on this app, and it's an iPhone, and I think he's got a watch or something that feeds into it, and we track him, all the way through, and it gives the heart rate back, it gives temperature, several kind of signals, and it works great, and of course, whenever he stops to take a break, we all kind of take a breath and go, okay, what's going on? So there's an anxiety side of it too, but it helps. It gives us all comfort whenever, he's out, and he'll go out by himself. He doesn't, he's 83, I think, and still, does 40 miles, two or 3 days a week. So here's another one. I think this is good. Are you willing to disclose which ELD provider that you currently use besides us?
Yeah, we use GeoTab.
Okay, all right.
Very known.
Yeah, that's a good company. I mean, we work with a few of them for other reasons, and GeoTab's and they're easy to work with, which is a good thing. Let's see, anything else here? Let's see some resources. So do you have any, what new regulations did you see or do you expect to see in the government regulations change as a result of COVID? Do you what's going on there?
As far as like like truck regulations, there weren't too many that changed. I mean, I know they did open up to specific carriers the logbook and their hours. Unfortunately, we weren't a part of that. We couldn't use that exemption. And I believe they've already taken that exemption down. But I know, for like OSHA regulations and stuff like that, I know there's a big change in that aspect. I don't have to deal with that too much because we're not into warehousing and stuff like that. But I think as far as government changes and regulations, I think they're going to put it into a little bit more aspect. As far as, I think they're going to keep that masking around, honestly. I don't think the masks are going to go away in warehousing. I think everybody's going to have to keep them on. I really don't think they're going to go away. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening, I think, I don't know if it's Biden that said this or, no, it's Fauci. Fauci said that he expected the mask to go well into next year. So it'll be a 2022 thing also.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, and I don't think they've really figured out, and at least I haven't seen anything on, if you can have the vaccine and you're still a carrier. And so, even though you have a vaccine and you don't get the symptoms, you could still be a carrier. And if, you have elderly or somebody who's more susceptible around the house. So, or even in restaurants, as they start opening those for indoor dining, they may have that in the rest of the United States. They don't have it in California yet, or at least not Northern California. Cool. I think I'm cruising through the questions. If I missed a question, oh, here's one. So do your drivers, do you provide the equipment yourself, the tablets, the iPhones, or do they have their own, or how does that work?
They use their own. They use their own. I have been thinking about going to a tablet because it's just bigger and a little bit easier on the eyes for them. But I have to wait on that for a little bit.
Okay. Here's another really good question that came in earlier. How are your drivers' response to using an app if they were language barriers? So you said you had Hispanic drivers, and so, are they comfortable with English, or do they use Spanish? I mean, I'll give I know our app is available in 22 languages, and so in Spanish and French and actually.
It's funny that you say, it's funny somebody's asked that because it's funny. Their ELD app, they can change it to Spanish, and they'll come into the office and say, it's something's wrong here, and I'm not sure what's going on. And they'll hand it to me. I'm like, I can't read this. I'm like, I need you to change it back to English so I can understand. But I've been working with them for so long, and we don't have a huge turnaround here. So the same drivers have been with us here since I've started. We have a very good understanding between one another. And most of the new guys that come in, they're very, their English is really good and they completely understand. But, like I said, there's some that have a little bit of not understanding. And I'll have a driver, actually, his wife will call me. And can you explain this to me? Because he wasn't quite understanding what you meant. I'm like, okay. So there's always a way we get around that somehow, some way, but it all works out.
Yep. No, that's, yeah, I remember when I was young, I grew up in Dallas, and I was a huge soccer player. I loved playing soccer, and back then in Dallas, I mean, everybody was Hispanic that played soccer, and if you didn't speak Spanish, you didn't get the ball. So so yes, I mean, it's very accustomed to that kind of.
Sometimes I wish I would have stayed into to further years. Because now I'm like, I might know a few words here and there, but I really should.
Anyway, so is there any other questions? Let's see. If you have the drivers use their own phone, what do you reimburse?
We don't.
Okay.
Reimburse.
It's just a part of, are your drivers, I mean, I didn't ask this, are they, more contract, or are they're all employees?
They're all contracts. They all
Okay.
have their own trucks.
Okay.
Um,
So you use owner operators?
yes, but in some aspects, we do reimburse them for parking to kind of make up for them having to use their cell service.
Mm-hmm.
But we still get charged for the service too. So, but like I said, I'm trying to move into the tablet area to get them off their cell phone. So it's a little, like I said, it's a little easier on the eyes for them instead of their small phone. A lot of them still have little small phones instead of the big phones.
Right. I mean, that's been, so, in our, with what we do, we move, we help I mentioned this early, companies all over the world, trucking companies all over the world connect into our system. And so we have to be in multiple languages. We have to be able to service in multiple languages. And we deal mainly with owner operators. I mean, we have some of the larger carriers on our network, and the, Rogue Ones, and but most of, I think we were doing some statistics the other day, and over across our entire network, over 90% of the trucking companies that use our app and connect into our system have less than 50 trucks, or connect with less than 50 trucks, and many of them owner operators with less than 6 trucks, and all over the world. So we have designed our system to kind of support that level, and over time we may change that, but today that's what's that's the world today, and it's a good world. And the challenge is just being able to find that capacity. And I mean, that's we spend a lot of our time making sure that those owner operators are heard, and smaller trucking companies are available, especially when you can't find capacity with some of the larger carriers. So we sort of complement that. Anyway, so any other questions? I think we're probably getting towards the end here. So I think any other closing remarks, Brandi? Any other thoughts, or yeah? Well, thank you so much for spending the time with us today in this quasi fireside chat, and we enjoyed it, and it's been great working with you and your company.
Thanks for having me.
And yeah, I'll turn it over. Kim, any closing remarks here?
Yeah, I just want to echo your comments, Glenn. Thank you both for spending this hour with us and our attendees and sharing these valuable insights. I really enjoyed the conversation. For our attendees that have stayed on with us, when the webinar closes, you will be redirected to a brief online survey. If you could just take a moment to fill it out, it will not only help our speakers, but will help us here at TCA to continue to provide quality programs. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I wish everyone a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
Yep, you too, Kim. Thank you thanks for the opportunity. We enjoyed it, and we'll be working with you on more of these in the future. It's been a forum.
Absolutely. Thank you both.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You.